So, can everybody hear me okay? Okay, excellent. So, welcome to our meditation retreat. And I know that some people like it cold, like me. I was born in a cold country, and every time I come here to do a retreat, I always feel, can we turn the aircon cooler, please? But then some of you are already putting on blankets. And even if I go over to Asia to teach a retreat, say to Singapore, you put on blankets, I can't believe it. But nevertheless, everybody likes different temperatures, so please, you can get your blankets if you feel cold. You can get your, I don't know what happens if you feel hot. Please don't expose yourself too much. But nevertheless, it is quite important that when you are meditating you feel comfortable. And that's one of the reasons why we do have aircon, why we do have chairs, we do have cushions, why even we have little teddy bears. That I was actually listening to the instructions. I was sitting in one of the walking meditation halls earlier, and when people ask, what are we got these teddy bears here for? If you don't know, try one. As I was doing, just put it on your lap and just let it sit on your lap while you're meditating. It's amazing just how it changes some of your attitude to meditation. Instead of being so serious, you're much softer. Kindness is an important part in meditation. So much so that I always try and encourage people to remember it's not just mindfulness, it's the kindfulness. And we have that kindness, that softness. It's much easier to get that joy, which is important to be able to sustain your attention. I know many years ago, when I went to this meditation to teach a retreat over in Sydney, and the person who drove me from the airport to the venue, he'd always call the retreat hall where they sat so many hours meditation, he called it the torture chamber. And if that's how you feel coming into this room, that this is a torture chamber, you've got to sit and it hurts, listen to boring talks with no fun, but you have to, and you really would love to do something else, what type of meditation retreat is that? You'll find if you have this engagement with this hall, that it's comfortable for you, and you have these amazing experiences in meditation here, you'll find the hall is no longer called the torture chamber. It can sometimes be called the entertainment center. And it's a really powerful, deep entertainment, not just sensory, but deep into the mind. And then this place is not called it's not called Jhana Grove anymore. What's it called? Club Med Serpentine. So welcome everybody to Club Med Serpentine. Club Meditation Serpentine. And just changing that attitude will help the meditation enormously. Already, just listening to some of the instructions, the briefings about this place. Many of you have been here before. Many of you I've known for a long time. And when you come here, please remember what this place is here for. It's a nice, comfortable room with, you can get more blankets, more cushions, chairs, even the chairs we have here. When we ordered the first group of chairs, that I went to try them out first of all. I wanted to make sure these were not good for just watching a movie or eating food, that these chairs were really good for meditation. so they're not too high, not too low. If you find you have got long feet, then put a cushion underneath your bottom. It raises you up so your feet don't get stressed. If you are short, then put the cushion underneath your feet so they can be comfortable. And that means that you can sit with a comfortable body, and that's kindfulness to your body. And then it can relax. It's really hard sometimes when you're meditating and you got an ache here or a pain there. Okay, you can endure if you want to, but that is not really the way that meditation works. How it works is your body gets so relaxed and peaceful, you can be free from your body. It kind of disappears. An example of that which comes to mind, I was saying this just a few days ago, I think actually somewhere, that when I was a young man, and before I became a monk, living in UK, I'd go anywhere to practice meditation. It's so hard to find monasteries where you could just be left alone to sit. So Tibetan monasteries, Zen monasteries, Sri Lankan monasteries, Burmese monasteries, Thai monasteries, you tried all of them. But one of them which I tried, because it was close to where I was living at that time, was a Zen monastery called Fossil Hole. They're still around apparently. And this was one of the first years when it was in operation. And I remember one of the examples where I learned a lot about what meditation is, was we were asked to sit facing a wall. There's about 24 of us there, to sit down, face a wall with your eyes open. And then what to do? We weren't given any other instructions. So many people didn't know what on earth they were supposed to do. Fortunately, I had done lots of meditation before by that time. I think I was about 22. Enough meditation, at least I knew how to keep my mind peaceful. So I wasn't thinking. I wasn't fantasizing. I was reasonably still. And my mind, again, wasn't drawing conclusions or trying to name anything. I was just watching a whitewashed wall. And that was when something very fascinating happened, which actually taught me why I was doing this. The wall vanished. You sit there just like I'm looking at each one of you, and imagine if suddenly that you all totally disappeared. You vanished, poof, gone. And of course, that was interesting. Fortunately, I wasn't scared. When a solid wall just disappears into nowhere, a lot of people will think they're going crazy, or they put some drugs in the tea, or something weird was happening. But I trusted people on retreats. That's one of the first things to emphasize here. Everybody on this retreat, keeping precepts, which I don't need to give you, you can just keep them. Now be honest with each other, be good people, keep that virtuous conduct. And that means, you don't have to worry about your neighbors. They're all good people, they're trying their very best. And because I trusted all the people on that retreat, I didn't feel that something weird was going on. It was just something which had some reason behind it. And of course the reason was that when you are still, you're just watching a wall, and the wall nothing was going on it. There was no animals crawling on it. It wasn't like watching a computer screen with things moving. It was just a simple whitewashed wall. And it's the nature of the brain and the mind, both, that if you are experiencing something and it's still, nothing moves, it disappears. The clearest simile these days is when you watch the screen of your computer or your tablet or your iPhone. If you don't do anything with it, after a while, the screen goes blank. Because the brain or the mind In this case, they both work the same. When there's nothing changing, when it's still, you don't think, you just see, you know, you're not sort of talking to yourself inside. Then the image in front of you, even though it was a solid wall of used to be a barn before, and then it vanishes. That's the nature of reality. That's how your brain works, how your mind works. And that told me just the importance of stillness in meditation. Don't call it concentration. This is not a concentration camp. This is a stillness place. And once everything is still, you find so many things vanish. That's why we try and sit comfortably, so you don't have to keep on fidgeting. The body can be still. And after a while, once it gets reasonably still, you'll be surprised how parts of the body vanish. You can't feel your feet. You can't feel your legs. You can't feel the pressure on your butt against the cushion. You can't feel your back, your hands, your head. The body vanishes once it's still. And I must say, every year, which I teach this retreat, I'm 1 year older. I cannot say that I'm getting old, because the monks keep telling me off when I say that, I'm getting old. What do they say? Ajahn Brahm, you are old already. But it's nice to be able to sit here, get into a nice meditation, you can't feel your body. And just after you come out of meditation, the body feels incredibly healthy. It's just so relaxed and peaceful. So if you want to relax your body and get it feeling really good, see if you can allow the body to disappear for a while. So still, you go inside the body to the mind, which is much more fun to be with. And also you find you get amazing health benefits afterwards. And energy benefits too. For those of you who are Buddhists, not everybody who comes on retreats are Buddhists. A lot of them are afterwards. Which is a strange thing to say, but that's true. So one of the things which, when you do allow the body to vanish, and you're sitting here perfectly peaceful, perfectly awake, it's amazing the sorts of benefits which you find. Okay, whenever I do give a talk, as many of you know, I just allow the talk to evolve. I don't control it. And so I was now going to say one of the stories which happened when I was teaching in a retreat, again over in Sydney. And at that retreat there was a gentleman. He wasn't a Buddhist at all. And he came to check in with me when he first came. He said that the only reason he was on this retreat was because he had a very bad cancer. It was a big tumor in his sinus. And because of the tumor in his sinus, that he couldn't breathe properly. This wasn't imagination, because whenever he did breathe, it was always through his mouth, and it was always very loud. And in a small room where we're doing this retreat, that resonated. Everything else was quiet, but his breathing was really loud. And so much so in the Q&A time in the evening, nearly all the questions, about 80% of the questions, were the same question: can you please ask people to breathe quietly in the meditation hall? Have you ever had those experiences that sometimes people are so noisy in this meditation hall? Please practice kindfulness. I don't know why they're doing this, but at least they're in the meditation hall. Thank you for being in here. So then I said, it's my fault, I should have let you know. The gentleman making all that noise just can't breathe through his nose. He's got a tumour there. So I gave him all these instructions, like I give each one of you, just to relax, let your body be nice and peaceful, and see what happens. Number one, do not have goals. If you have a goal, something you want to achieve, that means you can't be peaceful. You're stressed. Even small amounts of stress means this doesn't work. So anyway, this gentleman is at the end of the retreat, as always. All of you here, don't try to get anything for the first 8 days. Wait till the last day on Saturday. That's when things happen. So it's a waste of time. Just relax. Don't expect anything. It's always the case. I don't know why, but it's people always get their best meditations on the last day of the retreat. So anyway, same thing happened to him. He was getting nowhere. But you know that once people found out why they were making a noise, no one ever complained after that. They gave him so much kindness and compassion. What a wonderful thing it was that someone was trying to cure their cancer. The doctors had given up on him by just meditating. And of course, the last meditation of the retreat, I'd had to leave early to get the flight back from Sydney Airport to Perth. And he came running after me, and that's when he said to me, Ajahn Brahm, please stop. And I didn't know why, but I paused for a few minutes, asked the driver to stop, pause driving. And that's when he told me, through the window of the car, Ajahn Brahm, the last meditation I was doing there, he heard this popping sound. Pop. And he could breathe through his nose again. The first time in months. But then it closed after 1 minute. But at least this was an experience, not a theory, not thinking you're enlightened. Actually, you could actually breathe something tangible, real, happening on his body. But then it closed up again. And I think I kind of kicked myself for not actually stopping and talking longer with him, but I didn't need to. I couldn't. I had to get to the airport. And anyway, I just told him, carry on. Not much of a response, was it? I really thought he'd left it too late. But then, of course, and I think I told this, last time I told the story, I mentioned this as part of the ending. I only tell the stories which have happy endings, where it actually works. So the happy ending was about 6 months later, when I was in Sydney for another reason, giving a talk somewhere else, a totally different venue. And this guy came up to me, this gentleman came up to me and said, "Do you remember me?" Never ask that question of a monk. We have to be honest. So I was honest. I don't know, who the heck are you? And of course he smiled and he said, I was that guy. He carried on meditating. And many pops later, he could breathe through his nose. And the tumour decreased and decreased until he was in full remission. Beautiful story. So if anyone makes any noise here during your retreat, have that kindness, whether it's banging the doors or just coughing or whatever. Please give that kindness to everybody. So it means that it doesn't disturb you that much. That's what Ajahn Chah always told me. It's never the noise disturbs you. Never the noise disturbs you. It's you who disturb the noise. Never made sense to me. Rubbish. Look, I'm trying to get enlightened. What would happen if the Buddha was under the Bodhi tree and somebody went bang? We wouldn't have a Buddha. Actually, there's something more deep than that. If somebody does bang the door, if there's somebody in your cottage who always bangs the door, and you say, look, just when I was about to get into jhana, it was just so close, and somebody banged the bloody door. They're just so insensitive. And so I'm going to talk to Ajahn Brahm about this. I'm going to get them banned. I'm getting all the noisy door bangers, all the people who get up really early to make themselves a cup of coffee. I'm going to get them banned. Or we can just get one cottage for the noisy ones. No. That banging of the door disappears in a second. Bang! Then it's gone. The main noise is the echoes in your mind afterwards. It shouldn't be like this. Why do people do this? This is really wrong. I deserve some quiet. We should actually take off all the doors. Or have no... How long... That's the noise. And that's the preventable part. How we react. So that's what we learned from that retreat. You don't react to such noise. And then in the end, you have these beautiful results. This guy saved his life, literally. And when I asked him, I haven't seen him again since, but I remember him telling me, I asked him, well, what are you doing now? And he said, whatever many years I've got left, I'm going to teach that way of meditation you taught me. It was a very lovely comment. And it didn't need any sort of other gifts than knowing that a person's life had been saved and that he was going to share that attitude to others in Sydney for the rest of his life, however many years that was. So that type of kindness, that softness, you learn that by putting a little teddy bear on your lap. And it feels good. I don't know about you, but you grow up with teddy bears. I did anyway. They're soft, they're non-threatening. You feel safe with them. And it just gives that little bit of kindness and compassion, which is so important to develop nice, deep meditation. That you learn from the sounds. They don't disturb you anymore. It'd be wonderful to have a perfectly quiet meditation hall. With everybody has their own air conditioner. These little things come right over your head. You can adjust the temperature just for you. I once kind of fantasized about that. And I mentioned this to people. Every time I go to some of these countries, to some great entrepreneurs, and I said, why is it after all these years we're still sitting on these last century meditation cushions or benches and stuff? Haven't we learned how to make better meditation cushions? So I started to think about meditation cushions. You can have different compartments to them and a little control. So if your back needs to be lifted up, you press a button, it fills with air and it goes further up. If this knee starts to hurt, another sort of button and that sort of lifts up. If this thing is hurting, another button and you can massage it. I've seen this in some of those chairs in these aircraft, and they can massage it. And if you have sloth and torpor, like many people do, another button, and you can have a whatever coffee, latte, flat white, or... So you don't have to go out to get that, you just pick it up and just drink it here. Great way to get rid of sloth and torpor. So all those ideas. Why can't we have more comfortable meditation cushions? But then really, this is reasonably comfortable, but it's also very helpful to switch. Into a chair sometimes, into a stool sometimes. Don't always just sit down and torture yourself. See if you can have a nice, comfortable meditation retreat. And when you do that, when this is comfortable, and you get some peace and some happiness here, psychologically what that does is you like to come into this hall, you like to meditate, and you look forward to it. And that means that you meditate a lot, and that very attitude, you're not just killing time, you're not just bearing with the aches and pains, you're not thinking, oh, this meditation doesn't work for me. It's always enjoyable. And that's what it's supposed to be. No, for years and years, well actually, just why did I go to Thailand to become a monk? A very simple reason, and I'm being honest with you. In London there were Burmese monks, there were Tibetan monks, Sri Lankan monks, all sorts of monks there. And it was, honestly, the Thai monks I knew smiled the most. That was all. I wanted, if people meditate, and if they were getting insight, if they were lessening suffering, I wanted to see the example of people who lessen their suffering, people who are happy and joyful. And that's like what I saw with a few of the Thai monks over in London. Monks who were miserable. Ugh. I thought, I don't want to be like that. And for those of you who doubt me, it's in the one of the suttas. No, which one is the not Dhammacchedya Sutta. It's anyway one of the suttas in the Majjhima Nikaya. When King Pasenadi went to see the Buddha for the last time, he's just about to die soon. When he went to see the Buddha, and the Buddha kept asking, "Why do you like to come and see me so often?" And the king never said about the Buddha's wisdom. The first thing which King Pasenadi said to the Buddha was, every time he comes into that monastery, the famous Jetavana monastery in Atapindika's park, every time he comes in there, the monks were always happy and smiling. And he loved to actually just to see these monks happy and smiling. Would you like to see monks happy and smiling? Or would you like to see miserable monks? So it was their happiness and smiling which was the marketing tool. I'm only putting it that way. We don't market to try and get more people. If anything, honestly, I try to get rid of people. There's too many, I get tired out talking to you all. And maybe I should be more miserable, and then we wouldn't have all these lists of people just waiting to try and get on these retreats. I know just how difficult it is actually to get a place on these retreats. There's a very easy way if you want to get on these retreats, though. Shall I tell you the trick? Do you want to know it? Mm. Pretty easy. Shave your hair and ordain as a nun or a monk. Did you have to wait on a waiting list?
Yeah. Well, there's a big waiting list for...
Well, not for you. Oh. You're a monk.
Yeah, I'm a monk. Yeah, I just come on here, yeah.
Yeah, easy, yeah. And the nuns, did you have a waiting list? No, you didn't. You just come. Is that true? Look how peaceful they are, how silent they are. Anyway, that's a good way you can get on retreats really easy that way. Maybe. Anyway, where was I? So, this is where, if you can be nice and happy and joyful, that says a lot about what this meditation really is. How when things start disappearing, what is really disappearing is bunches of suffering and irritations. Even already, I mean, some of you come into this retreat with baggage, difficulties from the past. And you all know this is not just modern psychology. This is actually taught by the Buddha about letting go of the past. How many terrible, dastardly acts have you done in the past? How many things would you wish you hadn't done? And how much fear have you got about the future? Who knows what's going to happen next? Is the world going to break out into war? Is there so much lack of water over this part of Australia? Are we going to have a bushfire? Ooh. I don't know why people are so afraid. You know the answer to that fear? I was recently in Hong Kong and I could not tell the story. Once Winnie the Pooh and his... Got to be careful. Winnie the Pooh and his best friend, a little piglet, walking through the forest, and there's a big storm. And the storm got so violent that not just big twigs and branches, but whole trees were being uprooted by the force of the storm and came crashing into the ground. And it was very scary walking through a forest, when there's a storm like that. So, little piglets, little people, even though they're less of a target than a big bear like Winnie the Pooh, size-wise, he was so scared. And that's when little Piglet said, I can't go on any longer. I'm so afraid. What would happen if a tree fell when I was underneath it? If any of you ever give public talks, don't just speak in a monotone. Give it some energy. And a little piglet was so afraid. But Winnie the Pooh, he was so wise. He had this inherent wisdom. His answer to the problem, what would happen if something terrible happened? His answer was, what would happen if a tree didn't fall when we were underneath it? As a former mathematician, I know that's far more probable. Yeah, a few people die in a storm, but most people don't. So why are you worried? Being worried, does that stop the tree falling? What it does, it stops you moving into safety. You're too afraid. So, anyway, little Pooh and Piglet, once they realized what would happen if it didn't, they walked home and they were safe. All of your anxiety for the future, how can you let go of it? Easy. Use kindfulness. I'm going to be so kind to the future that the chances of things going wrong reduce enormously. Be kind to your body. Be kind to the people you live with. Be kind to the animals who you live with. Over in Jhana Monastery, the animals who live with us there, there's many animals live together quite harmoniously. We have novices, monks, visitors. But you also have things like the kangaroos and the birds and the snakes. No one has ever been bitten. Over 40 years I've been living in Jhana Monastery. You see so many snakes, but none of them ever bite you. Why would they? I remember one of these stories. I was on this long retreat myself, and this big dugite came, 2.7 meters long. I know that because it was a very hot day, and he shaded himself next to the hut which I built. I know exactly the dimensions of that hut, 2.72 meters. And his tip of his tail and his head were just not too long. They could get the full shade of that side of the hut on a very hot day. And when that snake came down the hillside towards me, I was finishing my meal and just washing my bowl. And the snake came right up to me And I looked at it, and I carried on washing my bowl. I didn't even look at it afterwards. And the next thing I saw, I'm not exaggerating, it had turned around. It could have just bit me if it wanted to, but I was just doing my business, let it do its business. And its head was the opposite direction. It was so far away from me, and its tail was almost next to me. It was actually showing it was not afraid of me. I just let it stay there as long as it wanted. This is not the weather for snakes at the moment, but there is this nice dugite over here in Jhana Grove. Did anyone see it during the summertime? It's a beautiful snake. It's about a couple of meters long. And it just sits in the sun just to warm itself up. It doesn't cause any harm to anybody. So if you're kind to the animals will never ever harm you. Why would they? Do snakes eat retreatants? That's not their food. Frogs, mice, maybe, but not you. So you don't need to be afraid. Instead, we have kindness for the future, for the animals and bugs and everything else we see in the present moment. We do the same to our past. I've been saying that for a while now about, I think it was Shakespeare who said that all the world's a stage and all the people are actors on that stage. And because that was a famous saying, I kind of used that for my past. All the people involved in my past, the people who caused me trouble, the people who I loved and cared for, all those people, I'm kind to them and forgive them all. Why carry around some anger or hurt from the past as a burden? So forgive all others, and most importantly, forgive yourself as well. Whatever you did, can't we just say it was a learning experience? And that's the most important part of that self-forgiveness. I do have some little sayings on little stickers, which I found. I was looking for something else. I found them under one of the tables this evening. One of those sayings is, 70% is perfection. And that came from when I was a school teacher. That came when I was setting my first examination in maths. Are you good at maths? Can I test you? I tested some kids today. Think you can speak after this because I'm going to ask you a question. 26 sheep in the field, 10 die. How many survive? Who said 16? That's the wrong answer. That's not the answer. 26 sheep in the field, 10 die. How many survive? 10. Correct, the 10. You were there when I asked you that question today. How come? Listen carefully. 26 sheep in the field, 10 die. I wasn't lying, just being tricky. But anyway, when I was teaching kids, sometimes people thought that maths was boring. You make it interesting and make it more meaningful. But then, of course, at the end of the year, you had to set an exam. I hate exams. Even worse, setting exams. People take them way too seriously. You know, once at the school, I did actually ask the principal, can I please put a joke in the maths exam? And I did. He said, yeah. It was not an important year, maybe, I think, the 13-year-olds or something, 14-year-olds. And so I put a joke in the exam paper. And because you set the exam, you have to be what's called the invigilator, sitting on the stage and looking at all these poor little kids coming into the exam room. Sometimes it's like sitting up here watching you coming to the first day of the meditation retreat. And I remember then I said, okay, wait for a minute until the clock turns to 8 o'clock, whatever it is. And then I said, now you can turn over your exam papers. No talking. And I was looking at all these kids. And because you've been teaching them, you know them so well, these poor little kids having to go through the trauma of an exam. I felt so sorry for them. And of course, they were reading their paper. You could see that the facial expressions, so nervous. And then they read, now they got to my joke. and they looked at it. And then they looked up at me and saw this. I haven't changed much in all these years. This silly young teacher with a big smile on his face. And all that did was to relax them. And when they didn't take it so seriously, they did so much better. But then, of course, I had to ask, other teachers, is this okay? How can you set exams? And this one teacher, he was an old teacher, he said, don't set them too hard. If you set them so hard, the average score is 30% or 40%. Imagine that, if you did an exam and you only got 30% or 40%, you would never think that the exam was too hard, it was the teacher's fault. You always think that you can't do maths. That's why some people feel that they can't meditate. Of course you can meditate if you get a good teacher giving you the proper instructions. So if you can't meditate here, it's not your fault. It's the retreat manager's fault. My fault. But don't make it too easy. If every kid in an exam gets 10 out of 10, 100%, there's no point to that. So it said the best score is 70%. If you get 70%, that's a sign you can do maths. If you get some nice little bit of joy and happiness in this meditation, that's a wonderful thing, and then you'll come back and do it again. The fact that so many people like coming here, and it's a difficult thing actually to get a place on this retreat, shows you that most people really get a lot of happiness out of this retreat, a lot of benefit. Like that one lady from Sydney, another Sydney lady, I don't know why they're all from Sydney. Many people come from Melbourne and other places. But anyway, this Sydney lady, she arrived late because she was an executive, and she had to beg and grovel and make all these promises to her boss to get 1 week off. But she came, and we sent me this lovely email after her first day back at work in the office in Sydney. And she said, my boss noticed straight away just what this retreat had done for me. She was actually happy. And the boss said, look, I don't understand meditation. I don't know what drug that Ajahn Brahm has given you, but please bring me back some next time. He thought it was like a drug. But the most important thing, notice that something had happened. There's a much greater joy and peace and happiness there. So anyway, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to see results of the happiness more than anything else. And if you go after this retreat, if some of you come and say, I was totally enlightened, I look at you. If you say, it was really enlightened, totally enlightened, I'll say, oh, get out of here. But if you come and say, what a wonderful retreat that was, then I'll say, well done. It's the joy and the peace are the signs that your meditation is going well. So you let go of the past, you let go of the future, you're kind to the past, you forgive everybody, forgive yourself. So anyway, the teacher said 70%. Aim for 70%, because if you get 70% in an exam, at least you think you can do that subject. And the most important part is the 30% where you make mistakes. That's called feedback for the teacher. So that's where you, the teacher, or me rather, That's where I learn what part of meditation or math you never understood. That is why I do interviews. That is why I like Q&A. It's not to answer your questions. It's to find out what part of this very simple, beautiful method of meditation you haven't understood yet. And that's all. Because questions, they never solve problems. The questions lead to more questions, and more questions after that. That's one of the nice things about being a monk for such a long time. I've got so many experiences. And one of those experiences was with this very holy Thai monk, Ajahn Tate. And he still remains one of my favorite monks. And one of the reasons he was a favorite monk was that, when I first got to Thailand, I was in 1973, was it, or something? 73, 74. But anyway, he had untreatable cancer. He was in one of them big hospitals, Sirirat Hospital, over in the other side of Bangkok, being treated by the King of Thailand at the time. And no matter what treatment, nothing was working. So eventually he said, I'm just going to go back to my monastery and die there. So he traveled all the way back to his monastery, and about 20 years later he finally died. He went in total remission for years. And he was such a very well-known monk. And people who had been with him were saying all this amazing wisdom and great meditation. So I decided to go there. I had all these questions I wanted to get second opinions from, not just from Ajahn Chah, but from this Ajahn Tate. And so I went there, and even though I was a monk, I too had to put my name down and wait to get the questions, get the interview time. And eventually, after a couple of days, it was my turn for the interview. And I was waiting outside the room, had all these questions. I was longing for the answers from this really great monk. And as soon as I went in the room, my mind was so peaceful. It's like being zapped by this beautiful loving kindness. And you felt so at ease, I didn't want anything in the whole world. And that's where questions get answered. I felt a bit stupid. I just made this appointment and there I was. And so I made up this excuse. I think, it's probably best we find the answers ourselves. And Ajahn Tate said, yes. And that was it. But I remember thinking at the time, you felt so content, so happy just being in the presence of such a great monk, that I said, they can bring all of the water buffalo, incredibly strong, as many as they've got in the nearby village, and try and drag me out. I'm not going to move from here. You love that feeling of peace and stillness where all the answers vanished. And that's what we teach here. We answer the questions by not giving you more information, by bringing your mind to this beautiful, calm, kind stillness. And that's the answer to every question. Highly enjoyable, very peaceful. You don't have to fix anything. Sometimes people think they're not good enough. They think there's something wrong with you. That you've got all of these. I get into trouble for this, but this is my experience. All of these diagnoses from psychologists and psychiatrists. Any psychiatrist here? Please confess, be honest. But sometimes, are they really accurate? The reason I say this, because I give the example, like true stories. This was this gentleman over in Singapore, in Woodlands. I think, Eileen, you can remember this. I think there was a big 50th anniversary or something of the Woodlands Mental Health Centre in Singapore. So they wanted me to give a presentation, a Buddhist attitude towards mental health. And when I was there, I just gave some of these teachings. Even like every time I go to the prisons, all those times, I haven't been to a prison for a long time now. I don't mean I go to prison because I've got to finish off a sentence. It's going to help other people in there. But all those times I went into prisons, I never ever saw a criminal. I never saw a rapist. I never saw a thief. I never saw a murderer. You know the answer to this riddle. You saw people. It was a person who committed a crime, not a criminal. It was a person who'd raped, not a rapist. They were much bigger than that act. Hugely bigger. And that's actually the way that I dealt with people in those institutions. Not just to see the crime, but to see the other things, more than that. And because of that, when I gave that as an example, this guy, he was the head of the schizophrenia unit in Singapore, the professor. And then, after listening to my talk, he asked me to come and bless his ward. And that's another thing I do, give blessings. I bless anything. Even teddy bears. But he had this big cross on his chest, like a crucifix. I said, but you're a Christian. He said, yeah, I'm a Catholic, but I still want you to come and bless my ward. I said, why? And he said, because I like what you said. And then I kind of was really inquisitive. This was out of the ordinary. So I asked him, what did you like, which I said? And he said, I am the professor, the head of the schizophrenia unit here in Singapore. And I treat many people who have schizophrenia. And I said, how do you treat them? And he said, just like you said with the prisoners in jail. I don't treat the schizophrenia. I treat the other part of the patient, which doesn't have schizophrenia. Just like you recognize that even murderers, there's another part to them which is much larger. When that grows, the problem of difficulty gets subsumed. And of course, I knew the answer to the next question I was going to ask. What are the outcomes? With a big smile on his face, it's so much better than conventional treatments. A lot of time, wisdom is just seeing the problem from a different angle. Being kinder, being wiser. How do you treat your restless mind? You see the times when the mind isn't restless. How about sloth and torpor? See the time when you're not sleepy. How do you get to the experience of emptiness? Can't you see this room? There's more emptiness in this room than there are people. Isn't there? Look at the space in this room. It's mostly empty. Above you, there's total emptiness up there. Between you on the floor. But we just get into the habit of seeing things and naming things. We don't see the space between things, the silence between names, the emptiness, which is so free. Sometimes we look at our meditation, we think, what happened? We never see what was between those things which happened. The silence, the emptiness. It's very easy to be silent. Just watch all those times when you weren't thinking, like now. Can you be silent? There it is. But don't give silence a name. Silence is shy. You try to name her, and she runs away and hides. So this is actually how the meditation works. You notice that I don't say this is anapanasati, this is satipatthana, this is that. I hate that teaching like I did when I was in school. You notice this is stage 1, this is stage 2, this is stage 3. Because life doesn't work like that, does it? Sometimes you're sitting here and you just press the letting go button and you're blissing out. Why not? So if that ever happens, you're sitting here and all the causes and conditions come together, it gets really, really peaceful. For goodness sake, do not be afraid. In all the years that this retreat center has been available, how many years now is it? 14 years?
January 2010. No, 2000, April 2009.
15 years. Wow. I still remember the first Easter retreat here. We just finished building this place and we ran out of water. The builders used it all. So I remember having to ring up somebody and beg them to please come and make a delivery of water on Good Friday. We can't do that, this is holiday time. We had no water at all. And so we survived. Actually, I did bring some water eventually. But for the first day, I asked people, please don't wash. And I lit lots of incense, I think. That's where incense came from. Because in those days when people would meditate in the temples, their hygiene wasn't that good. That's why they had incense. It's interesting to see why people have all these traditions. Okay, here we go. You know when you see people actually put incense into a container? If it's a Theravada temple, they just put 3 incense in and put it in. If it's a Mahayana temple, it's a whole packet of incense and they put it in there. But more than that, have you seen them? Before they put the incense in, they shake it first of all. Then they put it in the container. You know why that is? After a while, it's pretty easy to figure it out if you're intelligent. Because many of you, if you are traditional Buddhists, the first time you were taken to a temple was by your grandmother. She shows you how to behave in a temple. She shows you how to put the incense into the container, shaking them. She's only shaking because she's got Parkinson's. And you think, well, that's what my mother did, that's what I must do. And that's where the shaking of the incense comes from. That's my theory anyway. It might not be right, but it's a fun theory anyway. So on this retreat, this is only the first talk. I hope you get a flavor of some of this talk here, the kindfulness. Just learn how to be here. Don't try and get somewhere. If you're trying to get somewhere, you've got this future coming up and it spoils everything. If you're worried about what happened 5 minutes ago because someone made a noise or something, or Ajahn Brahm told a stupid joke which offended you, well, this is not going to be the first time. Get used to it. Sorry. But nevertheless, let the past and future go. And then just allow this present moment, just being here right now, and be kind to this present moment. It's a beautiful place to hang out. That is one of the reasons just why that I find it too difficult to plan a talk. Because being in the future, you just start talking and see what happens. And do you notice that when I talk, I look at you? The reason why I look at each one of you when I'm giving a talk, that's when I get the feedback. So I know what to say next. I'm letting you sort of control the talk. And many of you who've seen me talk for such a long time know how true that is. Sometimes people ask me, can you give a deep talk? And I can't. You have to be at that stage to understand a deep talk. I tried many times, it just doesn't come out. Maybe if I shut my eyes, then it would work. But I'm just connecting with you. That's how teachings happen. And over this retreat, just as you get deeper in the meditation, the talks will get deeper to suit you. But for right now, just enjoy this place. Club Med, the first evening, in the entertainment center. You do have the walking meditation places, do some walking meditation. I'll describe that later on, how to do walking meditation. And also you've got your own rooms. Sometimes you can sit in there and it's like being in your own cave. So those are also really nice. Please use everything. I don't care where you meditate. It's a huge complex here. It's calm, quiet. And some of you, I don't know if I should say this, no, but you all know already, if you can't get decent meditation in this room, or in your own room, or anywhere else in Jhana Grove, I invite you to walk over to Bodhinyana Monastery and sit in the main hall over in Bodhinyana Monastery. I don't know why, but some places have got power. It gets so easy to get good meditation there if you can't get it here. But please don't all of you go over there. Otherwise the monks will start complaining, But, I'm still the boss over there. So he said the boss gave you permission. They can't say much about that. Okay, well, so it's just gone past 9 o'clock. Oh, it's got a name to it. Ajahn Brahm. It's my little bear. Nice to see it. So please try it, meditating with the bears. It does help. You get more softness and kindness. You can't help it. If you don't like meditating with the bears, what else we got up there? Big bears, small bears, monkeys, ducks, goodness gracious. Whole menagerie over there. So this is not just the entertainment center, this is Jhana Grove Zoo. So thank you all for listening. I hope you get a feeling for how the retreat is going to go. And wish you all a happy evening. You can go back to your rooms if you want to. You carry on sitting here if you want to. But as you are going back to your rooms or you're sitting here, please try and be as quiet as you possibly can when you go back to your rooms. Even burglars, they can go into your house, they make no noise at all. Who are higher, more refined beings, burglars or you? So that's just your gift of kindness to other people. As you go into your room, you try and close the door quietly or open it quietly. If you have some drinks, have you allowed drinks in the rooms or just... Okay, excellent. So that's a wonderful thing. You can make yourself a cup of tea or coffee in the room. But please don't just make a noise with a spoon, just stirring it up. Try to be quiet. That's great mindfulness and kindness. And in the morning, what time is the first thing we're supposed to be doing? Oh, yeah. It says in here, 4 a.m., rise with gusto. And people keep asking, who's Gusto? You can name your bear Gusto. No, it just means what Ajahn Chah told me. When you first wake up in the morning, just, what a wonderful day. You're on retreat, this is paradise here. So you've got a space here, wonderful. You wake up and think, oh, wonderful. I don't have to go to work today. I don't have to clean up anything. You can just go and have a nice cup of tea or coffee, just do some walking meditation, go and see the stars in the sky. So you bring energy into the morning. You don't get up and, oh God, 4 o'clock in the morning. What am I doing? This is supposed to be my holiday time. Oh, I'm stupid. But you don't have to. 4 o'clock in the morning is a daily schedule. That is optional. You can always get up earlier if you want. No, or later, doesn't matter. Just when you wake up, especially the first couple of days. Well, actually, for some of you may have lots of tiredness. So for the first 8 days, the night of the day, you can get up on time. No, it's not on time. So then we do walking meditation or sitting meditation. Please don't be a prisoner of the schedule. You don't get fined. You don't get put in detention. You don't have to sit in the corner. Who's sitting in the corner now? Oh, Jeff over there is sitting in the corner. You don't have to feel bad about yourself for having a sleep in. Be kind to your body. And after a while, you don't want to sleep so much. We do chanting at 6 o'clock and then a group meditation. And 6:45, I don't need to announce this. I do announce when you get up, but don't have to announce breakfast. You all know when breakfast is. And have a beautiful day. And I'll give a talk tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Any questions? No? Good. Good night. Okay. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Excellent. Okay. Those who want to meditate some more? No, smart Alex, please do. Those who want to